back to the channel. Today we're going to unravel some incredibly complex events in Genoa. Rumors are circulating around the Newman family, but what's the truth? In this video, I'll summarize the plot points that will be revealed in the next episode. Stay tuned to see what happens.
Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today is a truly wild day in the soap world, and we have an absolutely massive update to unpack together. Grab a coffee, settle in, and let us dive straight into the intense, heart-stopping chaos currently unfolding in Genoa City. And we are back in the hospital corridors. Honestly, it feels like we never actually leave Genoa City Memorial these days. But this time it is just so much worse, so much heavier. So Nikki Newman is walking down the hallway. Well, she is being guided. Because as you guys know, her vision is completely impaired right now. She has thick bandages over her eyes from her recent surgery. And she is just so fragile. You can see it in every single step she takes. Victoria is right there holding her arm, guiding her. Trying to be the strong, supportive daughter. But let's be real here. Victoria is probably just as stressed and overwhelmed as anyone else in this town. And Nikki is already dealing with the brutal MS flare-ups and the terrifying reality that she might never see properly again. It is a lot for one person to carry. It is just too much. Sometimes it feels like the writers just spin a giant wheel of tragedy and it always lands on Nikki Newman. Okay, maybe that sounded a bit dramatic, but you get what I mean? She is physically and emotionally at her absolute breaking point. So the hospital corridors are tense. You can literally feel the tension radiating right through the screen. It is thick. It is heavy. Victoria is just trying to get her mother from point A to point B without any extra drama. But this is the young and the restless. Drama is basically the oxygen these characters breathe. And as they are walking, they hear whispers. Because people in this hospital absolutely cannot keep their voices down. Honestly, do HIPAA laws even exist in Genoa City? They just don't. Nurses, doctors, random people standing in the hallway. They are all talking, and they are talking about Jack Abbott. Because of course they are. Jack is the biggest, most shocking news in town right now. And Nikki, even with her eyes bandaged, her hearing is probably super heightened right now. She is taking in every single sound, every gasp, every whispered rumor floating through the air. And what she hears is absolutely chilling. They overhear the horrific details, and I mean horrific. The whispers are all about how Jack Abbott was stabbed by Patty Williams. Let that sink in for a second. Patty Williams. The woman who is a literal walking nightmare for the Abbott family. The woman who Victor basically enabled and unleashed on this town. And Nikki is just standing there, blindfolded by surgical bandages, hearing that her dear friend Jack was brutally attacked. You guys know Nikki and Jack have this deep, complicated connection. They have history. They have love. Even when Victor hates it, especially when Victor hates it. So hearing that Jack is lying in a hospital bed, bleeding, fighting for his life because Patty stabbed him. It is a massive shock to her entire system. You can see her whole body stiffen up. But wait, it gets worse. Because the gossiping hospital staff aren't done. Oh no. Nikki and Victoria then hear the second part of the story. The part where Patty didn't just stab Jack. She tried to finish the job right here in the hospital. Patty put on a nurse's uniform and snuck into Jack's room with a lethal syringe. A syringe full of poison to kill him while he was unconscious. What were they thinking? Who actually believes this hospital has any security at all? Honestly, a known psychopath just waltzes in with a needle. It is absurd, but it is terrifying. And Nikki is hearing all of this in real time. She is hearing that Jack was almost murdered twice in the span of a few days by the exact same crazy woman. And you have to think about what is actually going through Nikki's head right now. She is in the dark, literally. She cannot see anything. All she has are these terrifying words floating around her. Jack stabbed, Patty on the loose, lethal injection. It is a massive sensory overload of pure horror. And she knows, deep down, she knows Victor has his fingerprints all over this Patty situation. Victor brought Patty to town. Victor funded her. Victor set the stage for this absolute bloodbath. Nikki is putting the pieces together in her mind, and it is just breaking her. The intense guilt, the overwhelming fear for Jack, the realization of what her husband has actually done. It is a toxic cocktail of emotions, and her fragile body just cannot handle it. It cannot process this level of trauma on top of her own severe medical crisis. So she collapses. Nikki just completely gives out. It is a shocking, heartbreaking moment. 1 second she is standing there, gripping Victoria's arm for dear life, and the next second her knees just buckle. She faints right there on the cold, hard hospital floor, and it is so dramatic. The way she falls, the bandages, the sheer vulnerability of it all. Victoria is screaming. She's absolutely panicking. Mom, Mom. She is holding Nikki up, trying to break her fall, screaming for help. We need a doctor. Somebody help. It is chaotic. It is messy. It is exactly the kind of high-stakes drama that keeps us glued to the screen week after week. But seeing Nikki so broken, so helpless, it really tugs at your heartstrings. We have been covering this show for a while, and it is rare to see Nikki look this utterly defeated. And then the doctors rush in, because finally, someone in this hospital is doing their job. They bring a gurney. They are checking her vitals. Victoria is crying, trying to explain what happened, but she doesn't even really know. She just knows her mother heard about Jack, and then her body just shut down. The stress was just way too much. The physical toll of her eye surgery, the MS, the emotional devastation of Jack's stabbing. It all culminated in this massive fainting spell, and now Nikki is a patient again. She is being wheeled away, and Victoria is left standing in the hallway, completely traumatized. Just a few minutes ago, she was trying to get her mom through the hospital, and now she is watching her get rushed into an emergency room. And then we have Victor, Victor Newman. Where is he while all this is happening? Probably sitting in his office, plotting his next hostile takeover or whatever it is he does when his family is falling apart. But then he gets the call. The phone rings, and it is Victoria. And she is hysterical. She tells him Nikki collapsed. Nikki fainted in the hospital, and you can just imagine the color draining from Victor's face. For all his faults, for all his scheming and his manipulation and his absolute ruthlessness, he loves Nikki. He loves her with this intense, possessive, overwhelming passion. Hearing that she is in danger, that she collapsed, it shakes him to his core. He drops everything. He doesn't care about Newman Enterprises or Jabot or Phyllis or Cal Abbott or anyone else in that exact second. So Victor rushes to the hospital. He is probably demanding his driver break every speed limit in Genoa City to get there. He is in a total state of panic, and Victor Newman does not panic often. He is the guy who is always in control. He is the guy playing 3D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But right now, he is just a terrified husband. He is rushing through the hospital doors, his coat flying behind him, demanding answers from everyone in his path. He finds Victoria. He wants to know exactly what happened. Why did Nikki faint? What caused this sudden crisis? And Victoria has to tell him. She has to look him in the eye and tell him the truth. She heard about Jack. And that is when it really hits him. That is when Victor has to face the harsh reality of his own actions. Nikki fainted because the shock of Jack's stabbing was too much for her to bear. And who is indirectly responsible for Jack's stabbing? Victor. He is the one who set Patty loose. He is the one who wanted to punish Jack, but he never intended for this. He never intended for Jack to be brutally stabbed, and he certainly never intended for the fallout to physically harm his own wife. It is this massive moment of consequences. Victor's actions have rippled out and struck Nikki down. And surprisingly, he is worried about Jack too. I know, Victor hates Jack. They are mortal enemies. But there is a line. And Patty crossing that line, trying to actually murder Jack, it is too far even for Victor. So now we have a double crisis in Genoa City. A massive, overlapping double crisis. We have Jack Abbott fighting to recover in one room, dealing with the aftermath of a psychotic stabbing and near-lethal injection. And we have Nikki Newman, blind, fragile, and unconscious in another room, broken by the sheer horror of what has happened to her friend. And Victor is caught right in the middle of it all. He is pacing the hallways. He is furious. He is terrified. He is probably yelling at the doctors to fix her, because that is what Victor does. He throws money and power at problems and expects them to disappear, but he cannot fix this with money. He cannot undo the trauma that Patty has inflicted on Jack, and he cannot magically undo the shock that caused Nikki to collapse. Honestly, the fans on social media are going to lose their minds over this. I am already seeing the reactions. People are going to be furious with Victor. They are going to blame him for Nikki's collapse, and they are absolutely right to do so. What were they thinking bringing Patty back into the mix? It is always a disaster, every single time. And now Nikki is paying the price for Victor's vendetta. It is just so unfair, but it makes for incredible television. We just cannot take our eyes off the screen. The acting in this fainting scene is going to be top-notch. Melody Thomas Scott always delivers when Nikki is in distress. And Eric Bredin is going to give us that classic Victor Newman rage mixed with deep, desperate vulnerability. It is a masterclass in soap acting. So what does this mean next? When Nikki wakes up, if she wakes up anytime soon, she is going to be so angry. She is not just going to brush this off. She fainted because she was overwhelmed by the horror of Victor's mess. This is going to drive a massive wedge between them. I mean, they were already on thin ice, but this might be the actual breaking point. And Kyle Abbott is already on the warpath. He's already going after Victor. When Kyle finds out that Nikki collapsed because of what happened to Jack, he might even use that. He might use Nikki's fragile state to further expose Victor and tear his marriage apart. It is going to be a bloodbath of family secrets and betrayals. And let's not forget Diane. Diane is recovering at the Abbott mansion. But when she hears that Nikki fainted over Jack, oh boy. Diane is going to have a field day with that. She is going to hate that Nikki cares so much about Jack that it physically broke her. The jealousy is going to be off the charts. It is just a massive web of complicated relationships. Everyone is connected. And everyone is hurting right now. Genoa City is basically a war zone of emotions. It is a lot to process. A blind Nikki fainting in the hallway while Jack recovers from a stabbing. Victor rushing in, realizing his revenge plot blew up in his face. It is soap opera gold, pure, messy, chaotic gold. We will be watching every single second of this fallout. Because Victor is going to have to answer for this. He can't just sweep Nikki's collapse under the rug. Victoria saw it happen. She knows exactly what triggered it, and Victoria is not going to let Victor off the hook for pushing her mother to the brink. The Newman family is going to be completely fractured by this hospital hallway collapse. And the Abbotts are just going to keep pushing. It is an absolute mess, and we are here for all of it.